Hey guys, thank you very much for joining me today. It's good to see you again. Today we're going to review a little bit of the Nikon rumors and gossip going around. It's always fun to check out that and see what's coming and what's been announced. So we'll start off with that, and in that context we have a new camera body being announced officially. It's the what is it called? Z30. So that's an entry-level camera, a DX crop sensor camera, and I'm sure it'll be a great performer for those just wanting to dabble and start out in the Nikon Z system. So it'll be affordable, it'll be functional, and it'll utilize all the lenses that Nikon have available at the moment. So I think that's a great option for those coming in. It's a great way of testing the waters and not making an excessive commitment. It's also good as a second backup camera. If you've got a second shooter or just want another camera on the scene, it's good to have something. It's always something better than nothing, isn't it? And so anyway, that's a great option. I think it'll be awesome to have the range fully equipped. So you've got a very entry point, Z30, then you've got the Z50, and then of course you've got the Z6 and so on, and all up to the Z9. So you have quite a collection of cameras coming up and available at the moment, and that's very nice. Now I'm still hanging out for the equivalent Z90 or whatever they want to call it, as the D500 replacement. So I was hoping that was the one being announced at the moment. I got my wires crossed there, and it was actually the entry level one, but I'm sure that within the next 12 months, probably I would guess actually about October, because October is a time when they do release a lot of the big camera bodies and all the exciting new releases. So my impression would be that they're going to fill that hole. If they've got the entry, they've got the mid-range. What they don't have, of course, is the high-range DX. And that's what I believe then that the new Z90, if we want to call it that, or Z70, we don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it will be a D500 replacement. I think that's when that will be released. So just a little later this year rather than earlier, or perhaps at the very beginning of 2023. But either way, we're halfway through the year now anyway, so it's not going to be that far off, is it? So I can wait 6 months or less for a camera release like that. But that's actually one that really is exciting me, the D500 replacement. Say a Z90, we may call it that because we just don't really know what they're going to call it at the moment. In the lineup, most likely actually it might be called a D70. They've got a Z30 now, they've got a Z50 already. It's very sensible that they would call it a D70 or something similar to that. Also, though, probably not wanting to confuse it with the Z7, they may use the odd number. So they might use, I don't know, whatever, 550 or something like that, just to throw it out a bit so it's not confusing people. But we'll see what they come up with for a name. That's not really important. What's important is the specs in the camera. So if we've got the lower end cameras and the mid-range, we're assuming it's going to be around the 30 megapixel DX crop camera with a good at least 20 frames per second shoot rate, and a lot more technology probably filtered down from the Z9. So it'll be like a mini Z9 if you like, at probably about half the price. It may or may not have a grip come with it. I would actually assume the format and body size will be smaller, probably no bigger than a Z6 anyway. We'll wait and see how they go. So it's all speculation at the moment, but it's a positive speculation, and it's an obvious hole that needs filling. So when you don't have a hole and you're speculating, then you're really just barking up a tree, aren't you? But when you know that there is a hole that needs filling, then that's most likely the one that'll come next. So they start at the entry point and build their way up, and that's a reasonable way of doing it. So that's with the camera body there. Then there's the speculation, of course, of the Z8. Now the Z8 has not been announced or anything official, but again, it's that filling that hole mode. And we have lower resolution Z6 for a full frame camera, and then of course you've got the higher resolution Z7 and Z9. Well, what we're missing then is the ultra high resolution. So that would be another hole that you would need filling. It doesn't have to be filled this year even. That's something that can be in the future. Let's say end of this year would be quite reasonable, or maybe with it's a co-release with the D500 replacement crop sensor camera. We'll get a full frame version of a high resolution camera. It won't be necessarily, I don't believe, a high performance camera. So yes, it will have massive high resolution, anything from 60 to 80 megapixels, but of course most likely the performance will suffer because of those megapixels and the file information there. So it might be a little slower than the Z9, probably 20 frames per second maximum, but then you don't have a high resolution camera because you're shooting high frame rates necessarily. Most of the time it's because you want a still image of maximum detail. So you're a landscape photographer, or you're taking museum photos or some sort of records for importance and files, and they have to be of exquisite quality. So that would be where that camera fits in. Wouldn't even really be that great for portraits, because I tell you, nothing a young lady wants less than very, very ultra high resolution of all the pores and zits and wrinkles. So it might sound awesome to have all those megapixels, but most people don't want to see themselves like that. There's an old expression in the camera world, it's called monster face. Now, what is monster face? It's not that they have a face of a monster or they're ugly. No, it's just that there's too much information. You get too many wrinkles, too many pores, too many zits and hairs showing. It's actually quite unattractive. So a little bit of softening is actually a flattering thing to do to someone, male or female. So yeah, high resolution for portraits, probably not necessary, but certainly very good for your landscape, maybe wildlife and, you know, museum artifact photos when you've just got to record it in perfection. So it's an interesting option, certainly, not particularly to my cup of tea. I don't see any application for that. You know, there's other options that you can have, like some sort of pixel shift technology where you don't really need massive amounts of pixels. You just take multiple photos and merge them together for detail. Nikon can do that anyway. They have the option of definitely taking many photos and merging them together to get high resolution. In fact, you can use the like a grid of 9. So like on the face of a Rubik's Cube or on the Brady Bunch little logo where you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 pictures, you do that with an image, take 9 pictures and you merge them all together in Photoshop, you end up with you know, 200 megapixel photo. So those options are already available anyway, regardless of a new camera. Obviously the one camera did it all in one shoot would be a little bit easier, but it's not unattainable anyway now. So that's some of the gossip. We've got, of course, lenses coming out from off-camera manufacturer. So like Voigtlander, for example, are releasing lenses for both HPRC and for Nikon Z, and I think that's excellent. We've got options from other sources now. So other companies are starting to embrace this bit by bit, and that's very welcome. It's always great to have options and choices, isn't it? And there's the 400 millimeter f4.5 prime lens. Now that's an exciting option, isn't it? If you've got a DX camera, it's only 600 mils, so that's awesome for doing your wildlife in a DX mode camera. But if you're using it on full frame, 400 at f4.5 is fantastic. I mean, the difference between f4 and f4.5 is negligible. You wouldn't even notice the difference. That's a really good lens for doing your wildlife photography, should that be long enough for you. And I'm sure it'll be built and designed to take any teleconverters, which of course gives you extra reach. Of course at a cost of the f-stop, but still you got the reach if you want it. So I think, yeah, that 400 millimeter probably PF lens, which would be nice and light and very affordable, probably a third or a quarter of the price of the 400 TC teleconverter lens, which is, what is that, $22,000 Australian. I would imagine this 400 mil f4.5 is probably going to be around $3,000 or $4,000 at the most. So that'll be very affordable comparatively. Another lens release is the 85 f1.2. Now, if that is a 1.2, and we're assuming it is because by the look and description of it, it looks exactly like that's what it's going to be. It'll match the 50, which I have right here, the 50 1.2. It'll just be the 85 version of that lens, I imagine, and that will be an excellent option to have. Nice shallow depth of field there, and obviously great subject isolation. I will say, however, having shot many a portrait with the 85 1.8 that they already have, the Z lens, that does a great job and also is almost already getting too shallow in the depth of field. I mean, if you're doing a headshot, you come up close to the face and just fill the frame with the face. At 1.8, you only got half the face in focus. At 1.2, you're lucky to get the whole eye in focus. So just be aware of that. Some of these things look fantastic on paper, but in actual practical application, they're a bit of a disaster. So you buy a lens that's f1.2 and you spent double the money on the other lens, but then you find you can't even use it at 1.2 half the time. So I've got the 50 for a good reason. The 50 here is an excellent option at 1.2 because you can do full body shots with that. So you know, got a chance to get a broad shot. You can get a couple of people in the image or a full body of one person, and at 1.2 it isolates that body fantastic and blurs out the background. But if you try and get a headshot with it and you come in really close, that's a real problem because then you're getting an issue with only a fraction of the face in focus. So just be aware of that. You won't always be shooting at 1.2 if you buy an 85 millimeter. A lot of the time you're going to have to stop it down to 1.8 or 2.2 or 2.8 anyway to get most of the face in focus. And then you're going to ask yourself, well, what the hell did I buy this 1.2 for anyway? So just keep that in mind. I've got a 1.2. I agree that they're an awesome option, but just appreciate the limitations that it gives you at 1.2. You will be increasing it up to 1.8 or 2.8 quite frequently. So keep that in mind. But other than that, am I excited about it being an option and available? Yes, as a portrait shooter, any portrait style prime lens is always an exciting option. So I have 85 covered anyway because I have the 70 to 200. 70 to 200 obviously covers 85. Even if it is at 2.8, if I want a shallower depth of field, I can actually just walk back and shoot it 180 mil or 200 mil at 2.8, and I've got a subject isolation and shallow depth of field. That's providing I can get back enough. And of course, if I can't, I can use the 50. So the 85 is a great addition and option. It would also be exciting to get, say, a 105 or a 135 in that ballpark range. I think they will come out maybe in the next 12 months. So they're sort of testing the waters. The 50 sold quite well and well received. The 85, when that's released, if it gets well received and is very excellent, then obviously they'll be keen to make other lenses too. I can't see them making a 105, I'll be honest with you, like the old 1.5, 1.4. That was an awesome lens. I've had that lens in the past, but I think it's too close to the 85 to be worthwhile making. I think the next one they would go from the 85 would probably be a 135, maybe a 135 1.4 or something like that. That would be, again, a great option to have as a portrait or headshot photographer. Headshot photographers don't need 50 mils. Headshot photographers want a longer focal length, because otherwise you're right in the person's face. Many a time I've tried to get a full headshot, and it feels for you when you're taking the photo like you've got the camera like this, trying to fill the frame with their head. So it's quite intrusive. So it's actually quite pleasant to have a little bit of distance from your subject and come back a ways. And usually in a portrait scenario, when you're either doing it in a studio and or you're out in a park or in the open, you've got the opportunity to step back. So why wouldn't you do that? So anyway, that's all I've got really to say about the technology being released. Next thing I do is I'll move you through this new hard case that I've purchased and how I load it and why I purchased it the way I have and the size I have. And it's actually quite an interesting walkthrough. There's a lot of details in there that you may or may not have appreciated. So stay tuned for that one as well. Thank you. So now I've reframed, as you can tell, and obviously, I'm going to lay everything on the bench here, and so I need a wider set so you can see both what's going on in the case, but also see me at the same time standing, because I'm going to need to get up and down and grab lots of bits and pieces, and if I was sitting down, it looks all very awkward and uncomfortable. So hopefully everything's looking pretty good. You may notice I'm wearing a jumper for a change, and that's pretty rare for me in Queensland, but the truth of the matter is we've actually got a very cold spell right now. Got an Arctic breeze coming from down south up here, and it's dropped us about 5 or 10 degrees below our average, so it's getting a bit nippy. So unusual for me to wear a jumper in Queensland, but today I can promise you I need one. It's quite cool. So here we go. What I'm going to do is show you first the old case that I had. Excuse me as I reach over and grab it. Now here's the previous case that I was using, and it was a very stable case. There's nothing wrong with the case. It's a great little unit. It's made by DeWalt. Now DeWalt are a tool manufacturing company. They usually make things like drills and saws for tradesmen, and this is a bag designed for those tools. So as you can see here is inside the bag. As you can see, it actually is padded. It's actually padded like a camera bag, and that's why I picked it up. I got it from the local hardware store, and it was about $100, and for $100 it was a real bargain. I think it's cheaper than most camera bags proportionally for its size, because it's a trades unit and it's not a photography unit, and anything associated with a camera and a lens is 5 times more than it should be in price. So anyway, here we are. We've got this nice camera bag with all its little pouches and pockets that it has, and zip little bags and so on, so you can put stuff away and make it safe. Had lots of accessories that I did like. Little zip pocket in the front, and little bags, satchels that you could put bits and pieces in. So I could store some items in here, a modest tripod and some camera gear and so on, camera bags I could pop in, and that was quite usable friendly. You could zip it up to keep it sort of sealed from the grot and the grime. And the zips are actually very high quality, so I'm not complaining at all about how it all put together. It is a trolley case, which is interesting to know. So when I say trolley case, you can see here it actually has the wheels and a skid rail, and that was actually very useful. As you can see, you got a handle, and you would trolley that along behind you, and it was actually very efficient. So I had a lot of positive experiences with this, and it worked out really well for me. The downside of this unit, and why I've had to sort of really obsolete it, is it just wasn't big enough. So the first problem or issue I had was the volume. Look, I'll be honest with you, I take way too much stuff with me. Probably half the stuff I take with me on a photo shoot I don't even use. But my philosophy is that if you don't have it with you on hand, you ain't going to use it. because it's not there. But secondly, if you've got it there and even if you don't think you're going to use it, but you bring it anyway, you'll probably find a use for it. And you can be more creative in your photography. If you're restricted to how much you can bring with you, there's every good chance that you're going to be a bit restricted and limited in your creativity on the day. So I want to bring everything imaginable with me, and I just needed a little bit bigger case than this. And it isn't particularly that much bigger. It's probably overall in volume about 30% larger, but it does have one other feature that was invaluable to me. And this is this factor here. When I lift this one up here and I let go, see how it just crumbles in on itself? Because it's a cloth case, it's not a hard case, which means it has no actual rigidity of its own. So it's not weak or flimsy. It does have this backing plate that keeps it strong here, but it just will not stand up on its own resources without being braced against something. And I found that super annoying. Every time I wanted to let go of the handle, the whole case would just fall over and collapse, and that was just really irritating. It was okay when you had it down on the ground, that was fine. If you had it flat, it was pretty stable. But the other issue I had with this is I couldn't use it as like a workbench. It's not actually a strong flat surface. So you couldn't put your camera there and lenses and have a fiddle. It'd all just sag and collapse, and it was a little bit exasperating. So as good as these cloth type bags are, and even my other camera bags are made of cloth materials with padding, I wanted something rigid and hard so I could actually have a lot of confidence in its strength and rigidity. So let me just put this away and I'll show you the new one now. I've teased you enough with the old technology. Let's have a look at the new technology. Oh, so here she is. This is the new case here, and as you can see, it's quite a bit larger. And here we have something that's really firm. This is a hard case. This is not weak. This is the sort of thing you drop from a two-story building and not be concerned if anything was broken inside. They're designed to be almost indestructible. They've got very strong reinforced corners. There's multiple hinges and multiple locks to keep it safe and secure. It is weatherproof and dust and waterproof. I mean, you could throw this thing in a river, it will float and it will not fill up with water. It will absolutely keep everything dry and safe inside. Not that I expect to go a lot of canoeing or throwing my camera gear into the ocean, but the principle of it is that it's just very safe and you can be very confident and secure. Now let me just turn it around for you. I'll show you the front. We get to see some of the hardware here. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I really liked about this brand in opposition to another brand like the Pelican. Now, the Pelican's a brilliant case. I'm not saying it's second rate to this. These are probably almost identical in every way. Quality, build, structure, and features. This one here is called a HPRC. That's the brand. So it's a capital H, then it's HPRC, and the model number is the 2745W. Now, I bought this one particularly because it was the exact dimensions that I needed. They make them slightly smaller, they make them slightly larger, but this was exactly the one I wanted. It was really it's a replica of the Pelican 615 Air. If you're familiar with that one and you've seen that around, it's almost identical in dimensions and structure to that. I think this one is, however, about an inch in length longer, and that was actually a big deal to me. It might not sound much to have, an extra couple of centimeters, but that's the difference between fitting my tripod in or not fitting a tripod in, and that sold me on this one. It is made in Italy, so it's of a very high quality. I mean, like Manfrotto equipment, it's all made in Italy, and I have a ton of that and love it. So whether it's made by a branch of the same company, I can't say, but I know it's an Italian build, and from my inspection of it and my experience with using it, it is actually very high quality and good unit. So let me just talk about some of the features around the side of it. So you notice here we've got handles. The handles are actually quite interesting. Excuse me, I've got some dog fluff on me. My puppy molts like you would not believe, and I end up covered in fluff everywhere. Gorgeous puppy, but very, very molty. So anyway, we were talking about the hardware here. We've got some handles. Now there are 3 handles that you can see visibly here. One either end here, and of course one in the front. Now what I like about these handles, I'll tell you what I love about them, they're extremely comfortable. When you go to hold these, they're rubberized, they mold into your hands, they're very, very confident in their strength and structure, but they actually feel good to hold. It's not cutting into your hands in any way, and because it's a rubberized and has our little perforations in them, it's a great grip. So you're not going to slip out of your hands in any way. And they feel good to hold, and they, because these things are heavy. Like, I'm not joking here. This is what is it, about 7 kilos or something, the case on its own. And I'm going to put probably 20 plus kilos of stuff in. So this is a big, heavy unit when it's fully loaded. When you go to lift this thing up, you want to make sure that your hands are comfy and cozy and it's not cutting in. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now, as you can see, it is a wheel trolley. The wheels are brilliant. They're very large wheels running on bearings with strong structure and a rubberized arrangement. I think that they're very high quality too. If I could just show you something else, I like the fact that these have the what do I call it, turquoise, light turquoise colorations on all the handles and the fittings. Now, what's interesting about that? It means it's easily identifiable. If you're at the airport and you're on the carousel and you're looking for your bag, it's, if you've got Pelican, you've got the same as everybody else has got. But this way, at least I've got something that's instantly recognizable as my case, in my opinion. Yeah, sure, where is it? Here, I've got my name on it. It has a name tag feature there that you can slot in your business card in or something. But yeah, I've got my name on it, but that's pretty hard to read on a carousel as it's moving around. But having something like this that's got the turquoise coloration does make it very easy to identify. Now I'm just bringing it around so you can see the front. You might be able to read the label. Have I got it the right way around? Yes, I have. Because I'm looking in the camera in reverse, sometimes it's a bit tricky. But as you can see, there's the label there. And, you know, I think it presents very well and I'm very happy with its performance. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just illustrate the fact I'll unlock it. Now, I'm unlocking it from my side so I can see what I'm actually doing. Excuse me doing that. But when I try and reach over, I can't see a damn thing. So just bringing it around for you there, you can see that I've unlatched these 5 locks. 1 either side, 3 at the front, keeps it down very sturdy and tight. As I open up the lid, you will see that what we have here is a sealing. So in this little groove here that runs all the way around the edge, there's a rubberized seal. And here you have a ridge. And that ridge and the seal socket in together. It's like hand and glove, and that forms a very tight seal, so it's completely weatherproof and dustproof. There's no holes in it in anywhere, so there's nowhere for water or dirt to get in. Unless you lift the lid up, it's a completely sealed unit. And because of that vacuum-like sealing, what they do is they provide, if I can find it here it is here, they provide a little air release. So this is an automatic feature that releases the air pressure. So if it's up in an aeroplane, there's cabin pressure, etc., and there's like a vacuum and it starts to suck tight and get compressed through vacuum, you won't be able to open the damn lid. It'll be like you have to force it with a screwdriver or something. But this pressurized lid here releases the pressure gradually and enables you to actually then lift the lid up when you need to. So that's actually a great feature as well. Of course, Pelicans have that, as all of the cases do. So here we go. We're just going to open this one up for you. If I can find out how to do that. There we go. Got it. And lifting it up here, you see, so I'll put some Velcro here because what I do, this is like a little bit interesting, I suppose. You could find this amusing. Let me just find my package. Here we are. I carry around diffusers with me. Here I've got a Celine's diffuser here, and it's in a simple little pouch that they give it. Now I can actually fit 2 diffusers in this. I'll have a large one, and then I'll have a smaller one. And what I've done here is I've enabled myself to, with the Velcro, just attach it like that, and it stays in the lid. So when I open and shut the lid, it doesn't come off, and it's always there when I want it. So I'm not finding it annoying dropping onto my camera gear and having to move it all the time. It stays up here out of the way, and it's all very handy, and it's always with me in the case. So that's just a little feature I've added in, but I thought I'd illustrate how that works for you. So I'll just take that off because that doesn't help us right now in the demonstration of the case. But you notice here they have this ridge surface either side here, and it matches exactly on the top of the thing here. We've got ridges here, and this is extra reinforcing. Now this is actually really important for me too. And why is this important? Because I like to use this as a footstep as well. So it's not really a ladder, is it? It's actually a case. But because it's so strong and so sturdy, I have and can, as about a 200-pound or near 90-kilogram adult male, stand on this, on those grippy areas, and have no fear of damaging the camera case or gear inside. It absolutely holds me up, and I have no fear of damaging the case or goods. So being able to use this to get that extra foot height clearance is really handy, particularly when you're photoing very, very tall gentlemen, as I actually often do, unfortunately. So I'm a 6 foot tall man, but if I'm shooting someone who's 6'6", which I've done quite frequently, it's very exasperating for me. So this will give me that eye level contact or higher, and I can actually choose now my angle of descent of the camera where I want to shoot by standing on top of this case, and it's always with me. So that's excellent. I don't have to bring a step ladder with me. I've always got it with me. It's also an awesome work platform. Think about this here, when you want to do some work on your camera and you've got some accessories and you're fiddling around and you're making adjustment. Isn't it nice to have something that's flat and clean, and will just enable you to have a nice work platform without putting your stuff in the dirt? So it's like a little bench with you when you want to do some work on gear, and that's also a handy feature. It's like an indirect feature of it, that it's actually a workbench and a standing platform if you should need that. So that's pretty cool, I think. So look, getting back to looking inside this unit, I'll just tip it up so you can actually see everything, because it's very difficult for me to get the camera angles just so you can see everything unless I'm using multiple cameras. So I'm trying to avoid having to do that. But here you go, you can see what's going on inside there. It's just a big cavernous hole. Now I'm sure many of you would say to me, well, why didn't you get the one with all the little foam dividers and you could make everything tidy and clean and soft and padded? Well, there's a very good reason I haven't done that, and that's my technique of taking camera gear. You see, I don't have just one form of photography. I'm not only doing birding, or I'm not only doing portraits, or I'm not only doing video. I'm doing all manner of different things at different times as I'm called on. So if the day prescribes for me to have to do video, I don't want to have to rip all those foam dividers out and rearrange them and muck around to get everything just rigid and perfect how I want it for that day, and then the next day rip it all out and change it around again for photos or something different. So I want something that's extremely versatile without all that headache, and this is what that's been able to do for me. So how does that work for me? Well, I'll just illustrate for you. So let me put this on a bit of a side angle. And the reason I'm going to do that is so I can actually see what I'm doing, and so can you. You can see in what's going on. So this makes it nice and safe. Funny thing is, I have noticed something very bizarre about this case, and you have to laugh. It's designed in such a way that it actually fits perfectly for every bit of equipment I have. It's ridiculous. This width of the thing, specifically centimetre to centimetre, fits in the trunk of my car. I have a trunk of the car, and then there's a recess where there's a spare wheel. So the trunk of the car, it's a sedan, where it drops down for the spare wheel, and it's carpeted over the top, has a little recess which is a little bit deeper for objects. This thing here fits exactly side to side in that cavity perfectly, so it doesn't move around and jiggle about in the back of the car. Who would have even thought? I didn't even really think about that until I went to put it in the back of the car, and coincidentally it snugly fit in just perfect. So I won't be getting rid of that car in a hurry because it fits my camera case perfectly at the moment. And this here, like I put this on the top of my tabletop just now, and have a look at this. I can't get it out. Why? Because if you're having a look underneath, and I'll try and make this safe when I do that, it has these little rigid stands to stop wear and tear on the base and give a bit of a protection, a bit of reinforcement. This table fits exactly edge to edge inside those legs. So when I put it onto the table, it locks in place and it won't move off now. So I can comfortably load it up and pack up everything I need to pack up and know that it's going to be safe and not fall over on me. Didn't plan it, but it's happening. It's awesome and I love it. So let me show you loading up this thing and just how I go about doing so. So I have some gear here. As you can see, I have a little camera case here. This is a soft bag, and inside this soft bag, and if I can illustrate to you there, you will see, I have some speed lights. That's my backlighting kit. So in this backlighting kit, and I'll just pull it out so you can see what I'm actually talking about. You can see here probably the golden filters in there, if I expose them. See, and I use gold backlighting a lot of the time, although not all of the time. I have multiple hundreds of colours that I can use. Gold was the one I used last time because that was the theme of the subject of the show. So this little item here goes on a light stand, and I'll use that for backlighting. I'll have it positioned in such a way like this, as I demonstrated in my last video, like that. It'll be on a light stand behind people and shoot a golden glow over them in a broad area. So that's why I have two and not just one, because I want to make a broader area of light, particularly when there are two people. And of course I can position these however I want. But there you go, that's what that camera bag is holding today, right at this moment. So I'll just snug them in there where they're safe. This here is this mount I was talking to you about. It locks on by an Arco Swiss configuration, and then that goes into the light stand as a normal light stand rig. So I just keep them together so I don't lose the parts. But this here Even though it says lenses, ignore that, that was from the past, but that's the irony of it. I have a little strap there, which I will illustrate later on. I'm just going to tuck that away because it makes a bit of noise as it rattles around, but that'll actually come in handy as I demonstrate further things. So how will I load this into the case? Well, I just plonk it down like that. It just goes in there. Can you see that there? Yep, just place it in there and it fits in there nice and snug, and that's a great little fit. The next lot of equipment I will put in is this hard case. Now, a hard case inside a hard case is unusual, you might think, but actually it's really useful because it's double security. So not only is it double security, but the other advantage is, see, I've got my lenses in here. Now, what do I have here? I have here a soft foam case. It's all well protected, the lenses. They're very secure in this hard case with foam. You've got the 70 to 200 here for my longer length. I have here a 2x teleconverter, but that could very well fit the FTZ adapter if that's what you needed to bring with you. And then of course I have now 17 to 35mm. This is an old D-style lens, but it works perfectly because it has the proper motors in it to run with the Z system, and of course it's got the FTZ adapter on it here. So I take these with me as accessories either end of the 50mm 1.2 I do most of my photography with. So here I've got a little bit longer, here I've got a little bit wider, depending on whatever I might need for the day. But even if I never use them, they're so safe in this case I never have to worry about them being knocked around or damaged in any way. So it's worth taking them knowing that they're going to be safe. It's worth taking them knowing they're there. If something's here, you may use it and get creative. If you don't have it with you, I can guarantee you can't use it because it's not there. So bring as much as you can with you, and that's half the theme of these big cases, isn't it? You may see a little bit of a shiny surface area here. This is a Sikaflex liquid rubber that I put in to certain places to guarantee weak points that they won't open up, because these cubular foam inserts, they do tend to fray and tear away in time. So by I'll put here a foam rubber rim around the lenses. It gives it a bit of protection, but mainly what it does is stops the tearing away of the foam as you're pulling them in and out and in and out. So that's why it does look a little odd with the shiny bits, but believe me, that's actually a very much an upgrade modification. So yeah, this is my lens collection I'll take with me into a little hard case, and I'm just placing that in there. Oh, look, it's bit me. There we go, and put that in there, and as you can see how that's sort of coming together now. The next thing I might want to put in here is other general accessories and bits and pieces. So let's have an illustration of that. Here I have a little camera bag, this little padded bag. I can just open it up there, the clip, and inside that it has two of these large V-mount batteries for my big LED light. Now the advantage of these batteries, and I have two of them as you can see, is they're massive batteries, but the beauty is it'll last me all day. So I charge them both up, I get like 2 hours out of this one, 2 hours out of that one, and I'm right for the day. Rarely do I have any more than 4 hours of continuous video shooting in a day, and that's really excellent. I could also bring along the power pack if power is available, mains power, but I like using the batteries when I can, when it's practical, because of the portability. You know, you're not fumbling over cables and wires and looking for outlets. You just run the thing and you don't care. So that's what I've got in this bag right now, but that could very well be full of camera batteries. It could be for filters, tools and accessories, whatever I might need on the day, or a spare speed light or something. So having that little camera bag as an accessory, imagine what you will might be in that, but it's soft and it's foam and it's obviously well protected, whatever gear's in there, and you can put that in, and now that's another lot of accessories I've been able to get into this unit, and I've got plenty of options. So you see, it's not about all the dividers and have I got enough room for this and is that big enough for that item. I already have all these boxes and various soft camera cases ready to go with all my accessories in them, so that when I get a call for doing video, bang, in goes my video kit. When I get a call for photo, I put in my photo kit. It's usually no more than 3 little boxes in there and maybe a little tub of accessories. I have little bags like these as well, where I bought little aperture LED lights. They come with these soft padded zipped cases. Now these are brilliant for storing little bits and pieces in. So you could fit a small lens in there, yes you can, and it would be perfectly safe. Or I could put in there little tools or accessories or batteries or whatever I want to put in there to make them safe and take them along with me. So that'll easily slot in there. It's plenty of room and it's no issue whatsoever. So having these variety of little cases to put in the big case, that's the way I like to fit it out anyway, and that suits me. Now let me demonstrate how I get now tripods and light stands in there, because that's actually a really big deal with buying this longer case. It's why I didn't buy a deep square one, for example. Why have I bought this long suitcase style? Well, the reason is I got long light stands and I like to put them in. So let me just illustrate a few. So these are very common modest style light stands that I have here to demonstrate for you. One, as you can see, is a little bit longer than the other. They're actually the same company, same structure, same strength. It's just that one's just a tiny bit longer than the other. That's the only difference. Has an extra segment in it to go a little bit taller. Now if I try and put this one in, oh, it's a little bit awkward. I can get it in if I go sideways, but it's a bit nasty. But if I have the smaller version, of course that goes in straight up and down perfectly, and there's no issue with that. So that's obviously the one I would choose to take with me in the case. I'm only losing some 6 inches in ultimate height, but it's certainly more than adequate for most of my applications. Now what about tripods? Well, I have a series of tripods here, right here. I have 2 of the Vanguard Actus tripods. As you can see, one's a little bit bigger and chunkier and heavier, just by a margin. And then this is the general size tripod that I take with me, which is a smaller Manfrotto tripod, a 290 styles. Now, all of these will fit in, and that's the beauty of it. So if I get the biggest one, just to show you, this is about 3.5 kilos of tripod. It's quite heavy. But I put that one in. You see that it fits in there perfectly without any issue at all. Smaller one obviously is going to fit in if the bigger one does, and I could take that with me if I want. Sometimes, you know, you need those really big, heavy tripods. Why is that? Well, when you're doing video. If you're doing video, you want as much stability as possible. When you're, you know, panning and tilting, you don't want the thing shaking around and jiggling about. You want it as steady as a rock. And these big ones, yes, they're heavy and they're bulky and they take up a lot of space. But one thing they do is give you a beautiful, firm platform. Something like this is not so great for video. This is awesome for putting a speed light up or something like that, but not so amazing for video, unless you've just got a modest light on top of them. But here I have, anyway, as you can see, I do have little clips on the bottom, and that's so I can put sandbags or weights on if I should need to give it extra stability. But this tripod here fits in actually generously. In fact, I could have no trouble having, if I just find one here, I could easily have a ball head attached, and as you can see there, with the ball head, that still fits in with a ball head attached to it. So there's plenty of room, and that was really important to me, that I can fit things in a hurry, because you don't always have time to disassemble everything. This here now is a different configuration. This one here has a little rotating, what do they call them? Arco Swiss mount on it. And I have this Arco Swiss mount, and it's nice because it's rotatable. So I can rotate it, then lock it in position, and that's really handy with lights, because I can now loosen that off and rotate the light at what angle I want it, without having to reconfigure everything up high. So if I've got it on extension poles, and I'll just illustrate them, if I happen to have these extension poles attached to get the extra height I need, and I'm just opening this up to show you the application, the extension poles, then this is going to go up really, really, really high, and I've got no way of adjusting the light up top to get the exact position. Whereas now, with this item here, I can simply adjust it, see in a turn, and lock it into the position I want without readjusting everything up top. So that's why I have it configured this way right now, but there's no issue with having that ball head on. If I wanted to, I have plenty of room, and I could easily mount the ball head on and leave it on. So tripod goes in here. This here is 3 sections, right? It's not one item. This is 3 section extensions. They just screw into each other with 3/8 1/4 thread. Put them in nice and tight. It's a little bit rubberized, so once you actually get them in, they lock in and they stay in. And as you can see here, they extend. So I can make this incredibly tall should I need the extra height on top of my light stands, or I should say really my tripods, which I prefer to take. And I can get an extra, what have I got there, an extra meter in height above the maximum that the tripod will go. So you're usually getting up about 9 feet tall with all this, and that's fantastic. I actually have 6 of these extensions. 3 here is usually more than enough. And they're very strong. So they're that graphite composite material, carbon fiber sort of thing, and it's yeah, they're awesome. As long as you have what I do now is I have these Arco Swiss mounts everywhere, and it's all interchangeable with Arco Swiss mounts, so I can have any variety of combination of equipment that I want. Ball head here, look, I would normally have it fitted to the tripod, but there's always more room in these cases, and that's the thing about having a nice big case. So as you can see here, I've got 1 light stand, 2 decent sized tripods, and an extension pole, and I've still got room to spare. If I wanted to put anything else in, I could. Now here I have here a very tiny leaf roto tripod. Now this is actually really awesome. It's really great for pretty much everything that's not excessively heavy. So I wouldn't put something that's 7 kilos on top of it, even though it's rated at that, but it's excellent again for speed lights or putting a camera on or something like that. Here, even with an extension pole, that will fit into this camera bag. It's always a matter of just knowing whether you go left or right, and here we go. So I can now shut this down, lock that. Only takes a few seconds. These clips Sorry, it's making a lot of noise and I was talking over it. That was stupid. These clips here are very easy to use. So there are many clips and you might think, oh, 5 clips, I've got to fit around 5 clips every time I want to open it. But they're actually extremely user-friendly to lift off. It's almost like a very gentle, almost effortless operation. See that one finger? Even my little pinky, with almost marginal effort, will open them. And of course, there's 5 of them to open. So you don't have the fear of them saying, oh, they might flip open. All 5 are not going to flip open. That's never going to happen. They're obviously designed, carefully engineered that it's unlikely for them to be knocked open in any way. You have to actually manipulate them to open them. But the manipulation part of that is extremely easy. You're never going to get sore hands with hard clips. I've had clips before that I've had to use, and it's like you're wrenching them to open. No, these are little pinky gentle motion opening. Anyone can open those, even with sore hands and arthritis and little girly fingers, you're going to have no trouble. So well constructed, but well thought out at the same time to make them user friendly. So I'm showing you the case now. I've got a ton of gear in there. At the moment it's sort of photo orientated, but that could very well be video orientated. As I've loaded it up with that there, I could just as well have my Ronin S here. All I'd have to do to fit it in is remove the little legs. Now these are shock absorbing legs for motion. They absorb all the up and down motion, give you a 4th axis of suspension. They're an accessory, but if I could easily put this in the camera bag, completely attached. If I wanted to make it a little bit more smaller, you can take the little leg mount off. And there you go, I've got that with me in there, and I'm ready to go. With a camera bag in there with the camera appropriately, with a wide angle lens, I could do Ronin shootings with this and keep it all safe and together, including other accessories as well, because there's a ton of room in there. I could even have my video light with me and various other accessories. So again, why the size, why the bulk? It's because of the options you have. You can take whatever you like doing video, photos, whatever you're going to be doing at the day, you've got plenty of space and you know it's safe and secure. So just the one last thing I wanted to talk about today, or 2 actually, but we'll get on with one initially. We're talking about option of video equipment and packaging it and how you operate it. And there is some interesting tips that I have for you regarding video, so I'd just like to run you through that very briefly. So I'm just going to put this monster off on the ground here and get it out of my way. Now you notice here that when I put it down, this is a point of interest here, when I put this down and I let go of it and it's upright, it stays upright. Remember the other problem I had with the soft bag? Every time I let go of it, it just collapsed and fell apart. That was very exasperating. But having this very stable like that is wonderful to use. There's a little lock on the handle, so it is of course a trolley case. It works very well as one, but when you do let go, it does stay upright. But while I've got you here and we're talking about volume and how much extra stuff you can get in, there is one other extra that I haven't shown you yet, and I should point that out first before I move on. So what I'm going to have to do is get something out of there, I think. Oh no, I don't. I probably could get away with this. You can use this platform here, the top of the case where the handle is, as a means of having a camera bag. So what I would like to do, and very often I'll do this, if I can just turn it around so you can see where I'm at, is I would have, here's my Z7 with my 50mm 1.2, and I'd have this in the camera bag, and if that's what I'm shooting with, for example, and have it all clipped in or locked or zipped or whatever it needs to be, and use of a little strap either side of the handles here, which I have somewhere, but I put it away, so I apologise for that. I can't illustrate that right now. But a little strap attached to the tags, put it around the back of the strap, and then you can take it with you everywhere you go, and it's very secure and not going anywhere. The advantage of that is that when you want to take photos, it's that quick to take a photo. You just pull it out and you take the shots, click, 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 clickety, click, and then you put it back in, and on you go to your next assignment, next location. But you're not having to open up the entire case to get it out. So I have my second camera with the lenses in there for emergency if I should need something unusual. But 9 times out of 10, that's going to do me for most of the photos, which it did actually on the last location shoot. And of course, the beauty of that is just to be able to pull that out of the bag instantly and then put it right back and get quick access without being fiddling around is awesome. It also means you don't have to have something dangling off you. Often I'll use a cotton carrier system, which is great for versatility, but isn't it nice not to have to wear anything if you don't want to, if you don't have to. So by having the camera bag on top, it's exactly hand height. It's exactly your reaching height to get something quick and easy You can pull it out, you put it back in, you take your shots, move on to the next location. Just make sure you strap this nice and securely around the sides there. Doesn't matter what size camera bag you have, this size or one a little bigger, they'll all fit and you won't notice it. And you can add 10 to 20% extra volume to your case just by slipping a little bag around the top of the handle there and taking it with you. And as I said, I do love the fact of the height, how convenient it is to dip in there at hand height. So hey guys, how you going? Look, I did forget to illustrate something to you that I wanted to bring out before I move on to the next subject. We're talking about the handles on this big case. Whatever brand it may be, doesn't matter, they're all built very well and the same. But on this one here, for example, I can just illustrate about putting camera bags on top here and how versatile that can be. Now I showed you that little one and I didn't strap it down, but I have even a larger case that I actually prepared earlier for this purpose and forgot to bring it out. Now this larger one here, inside this one, has a lot more room. It's a little bit broader, so it's not deeper, but it's a lot wider, and that gives you options for different camera combinations. Here I have now the Z7 loaded up with a small rig camera frame, and has of course the Arco Swiss base on it. I have the 70-200 on the camera now. Now the 70-200 is a very versatile lens, sort of thing that a wedding photographer or event photographer would definitely be interested in using. And so I've got all that rigged together and it fits beautifully into this case. You can see it in here. Now when I show you internally, you can see that there's actually plenty of room. It's a very comfortable fit and easy to get in and out. So by putting that in there, and still, if I wanted to, having enough room for a speed light attachment if I wanted to as well. I'm not saying you have to have the speed light as well, but you could, and that can come in extremely handy on the move. You see I can put the camera bag up here, and it sits very sturdy because it actually fits the full width of the bag now, and it's added a good 20% to the extra volume of the case. And here I have this little strap. Now I mentioned a strap. It's just a very primitive little camera bag strap with a few little like dog clips, if you like, on the end of it. Now what I do with this is I obviously clip it to either end of the case, because every case has little hitches or handles, and I wrap it around once here, and I just loop it through. And you loop it through again here, and then I just get this nice and tight. It's important to have it tight, and look it through there. And of course this is adjustable. On the back of this case you have a little on the strap you have an adjustment belt, so I can make this wider, I can make it shorter depending on what camera bag I'm using. And you just, when you organize yourself a strap, make sure it is versatile and you can adjust the dimensions. But as you can see here now, it's strapped and it's actually rotated around them, so it can't come off. There is no way that's coming off no matter what you do. But apart from that, even if you tried to slip it off the top, it's going to get caught up here in the handles because it's internally wrapped around twice. So I found that a very secure way of mounting it. And now what that means is that, again, if you want to get your gear out to take a photo, it's very quick and simple. You could be rigging this up and taking a shot in seconds. So you can have the flash down the bottom if you want. You can have the camera on top, whichever thing you're going to be using the most and the quickest. And there you go, that's all together very, very quickly. This has Velcro, so you don't really need to buckle it. But if you're going on any sort of a journey, I'd recommend you use all the safety gear you can to make everything protected. But here you've got a nice padded camera bag. You've got quick and easy access. Again, it's that ram right at your hand height, very convenient to deal with, very handy to do any fiddles or adjustments with because it's in that perfect height and size for you. And now you can of course trolley that around. You're not going to notice any extra detail with the weight, but you will appreciate very much the extra volume you've got now in accessories to bring with you. So I thought I'd illustrate that properly with actually the strap to show you how you can put that together in such a way that it's extremely safe to carry around, and you can even increase more volume to your camera bag. Whether or not you have this big size or you have a smaller size, it's nice to know you can add to it without any issue at all. So I just wanted to illustrate that and actually physically show you how that operates, okay? So that's cool. We'll move on to the next thing now, and it's still related to this camera bag, believe it or not, and that is how do we lock them and make them safe? So let me just show you that one. So I'll disconnect this only because it makes it easier for me to work on it. And I'll put this down somewhere safe. I don't want that getting injured in any way. Now on the back of these cases here, you'll notice that it has a little latch for a lock and release. When that's down, that's never coming up unless you release that little latch. It's a one-fingered operation. Very quick, very simple and easy. So that's all very well for access, but what about now for making it safe and locking it? Because you will notice that on the front here it has these two locking latches. So you can probably see them quite easily. I'm illustrating them right here. If I tilt the bag up, you should probably see the holes. So what I'm going to recommend is you buy yourself a little kit to make the bag safe and lock it up. Now this is particularly in transport, or if you have to leave it on site for a few seconds. See, sometimes, you know, you might be in a studio or you might be on site in a set, and you have to go back to the car for a few seconds. And we're talking about just happening to pick something out of the car you forgot to bring with you. Might even be a coat or something, or an umbrella. So if you've got to zip away from your gear, do you necessarily want to bring this all the way back with you? I mean, it might be a bit of a hike uphill or something, and it might be a lot of extra effort. So how can you leave this on set or on site safe when no one's going to ramage through it or pinch it on you? Well, just to give yourself a bit of extra comfort and security, you can get yourself a little bag as I have here. It doesn't matter really how you store it, but get yourself some locks and equipment. I use this little padded bag because when I throw it into the case with me, it's always there and it can't scratch or hurt anything because it's in a little padded case safe. So I've got a series of various little locks here, and what I wanted to run you through here is why I've chosen the locks and the arrangement I have. So firstly off it all, I've got a strap here, and as you can see it's a steel cable wrapped in plastic. Now what's the advantage of that? It doesn't scratch anything. Can't ever hurt your camera gear, can't hurt anything you strap it to. You put it around a tree, it's not going to damage the tree, no one can whinge and complain. If you put it around a post or whatever, it's not scratching and rattling like a chain would on the steel. It's soft and it's completely quiet. So I like using that, and of course you can use that in harmony with a padlock in order to secure it. Now in those little latches here, which I'll illustrate for you, they simply go in like that and you can lock it. But in my opinion, this is the wrong way to lock the case. Because now when you want to get the key in, you can't see where the keyhole is. It's very annoying. So just get into the habit, this is funny but it's very true, get into the habit of when you lock the case up, lock it the other way around. Don't lock it with the key facing down, lock it with the key facing up to you, so when you come up to the case you can readily see and unlock it very quickly. It makes no difference to operation, it just makes it a lot different to your convenience. So that's just a little tip there you may not have thought about. But what I did want to show you also while we're looking at this, there you go, just make sure that's safe there. When you looking at this, you may notice that when you put it through and you've got a conventional padlock, and I lock this down, that is really tight. Like there's almost no clearance. Maybe a mil or two of clearance when you lock it, and it becomes very compacted and very awkward to lock and unlock. And so unfortunately a normal, what I would call a standard configuration padlock, is doable and it's secure, but it's a little bit irritating to use. So what I've done is, in contrast, you'll see here, in contrast I've bought padlocks that are just a little bit taller in the steel locking mechanism, and as you can see there, what it does, it just gives me a little bit more room to play with. So now when I go and I lock it in, I've got room to move a little bit, to jiggle it around and find the keyhole and muck around and actually get it locked in without, oh, it's stuck, it's a bit jammed because it was so tight. That little bit of extra play in that length of that chromed steel hook is a big value for you in convenience and comfort. So it doesn't rattle around and cause a mischief, but what it does just makes the ease of operation more comfortable for you. So again, what you're going to do is you can just put your padlocks, one padlock here, one padlock here with you, if you want the cable. I mean, if you're just locking up, so you're just locking up and making the actual case safe, then the two padlocks in those holes is everything you need to do. They supply the holes, they've got a steel reinforcing around them so that they're very secure. So all means I recommend you using them. I reckon they're a fantastic idea to have, to be able to lock your case up and make it safe. But to even make it more safe, is if there's any steel structure, bars, iron stairways, bike racks, whatever there is that you can actually lock up your case to as well, no one can actually walk away with the case. Now, appreciate these cases weigh a damn ton when they're full, and if they're locked and they're full, they're already a heavy nuisance. Not many people are going to be able to physically lift it, and those who try and wheel it away are going to make a very obvious spectacle of themselves, because it'll be grunting and groaning and it makes a bit of a noise when it's moving around, so it will draw attention to them. But the fact that you've actually got to fasten to something means they can't just walk away, and it gives you the peace of mind that if you have to run to the car to pick up your food or drink or the coat you left behind or something, you know that this is secure and it's well fastened to something and safe. They're unbreakable as far as no one's going to break into it. Once it's locked, the stuff is staying in there and it's safe. But it's nice to lock it up and feel secure that you can leave it for 5 or 10 minutes. I wouldn't recommend any more than 5 minutes. If you can just get back to the car quickly and then come back, that's a great option. Leaving it there for 2 hours while you go off for lunch at a restaurant is an idiotic idea. It probably won't be there when you come back. Someone will go off, get some bolt cutters and cut your padlocks off. So for 5 minutes, this is actually a fabulous idea to make it safe and know that you've got peace of mind. So I wanted to bring that out and also bring out the way to store these locks. You don't have them loose in the camera bag where you can't find all the components. Put it into a little case like this, and then you know exactly where they are and you know that they're safe. And look, you may never use them, but how much room does that take up in that big case? Almost nothing. So take it with you just in case. It's a great idea. There's many a time I've been to a convention or a wedding or any other feature like that, and I wanted to actually leave my gear because I didn't want to have to bring it back with me and then unpack it all over again. Lock the case up and off you go, and you can come back in 10 minutes. Brilliant. So the last thing I want to talk to you about was tripods, and particularly our ball heads. So I've spoken a lot about them in the past, and I just thought I'd run you through them right now. I have two very sturdy Vanguard tripods here. I prefer tripods over light stands any day because I think that they're so much more secure and so much more versatile, particularly on uneven ground. What I was taking off there, little rubber plugs that just protect the thread and also stop the thread from scratching anything in your case. So they're not a bad idea. You don't have to have them, but if you've got them, it's pretty good to use. Now I've got a variety of ball heads. These little tiny ones here are awesome for just putting on a speed light or a light camera, maybe a crop sensor camera with no accessories. I have a Manfrotto one I can put on here, which is all aluminium, very strong and sturdy, and excellent for fastening things if you're just doing photos and you want that ball head arrangement. If you want to upgrade from a ball head though and you want a fluid or video head, there's two I recommend. From Manfrotto anyway, I recommend these two. This one here is an absolutely awesome fluid head video / photo ball head. It is actually a ball head, but it's a fluid ball head designed for both video and photo. You know it's for video and photo because it's got that arm on it. If it's got an arm on it, then that definitely means it's for video. So I'm just going to lock that on so it gets tight and I know it's safe. There we go. Now we're nice and safe. And so this one here I love because it's so fluid in its motion and it has a lot of options to, I'll just make sure everything's unlocked. And you can loosen it off, and of course you've got that perfect fluid motion here. So this is obviously in video mode right now. It will not tilt in any way horizontally like that. It is purely a fluid head video arrangement. You can adjust the tension and get it so it's exactly how you want, and believe me, that is every bit as good as any professional video head, providing you're using one of these mirrorless cameras. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily for you know, a very big heavy professional video camera, but this is suitable for any size mirrorless camera you have. So you could use a Z9 and a 70-200, have no issue at all of having beautiful fluid footage. And if you want to use it for photos, little button here, now it's in photo mode, and what the photo mode means is now you've got that tilt. So if you want to go and do a horizontal shot or anything in between, you've got that option. You can of course go forward and back, you can go left to right, so that's photo mode. Any conceivable option is achievable there for like a photo, and you can lock it in place when you're ready and do your, you know, long exposure photos should you wish. Anytime you want to go back to doing video, click it into video mode, and now you've only got tilt and trim and left and right. So this is actually a brilliant unit. I'll give you a link and I'll show you the description in the corner of the screen so you get all the serial numbers and etc. But Manfrotto makes some brilliant items. They're the top end of the market that they make, but boy are they versatile and useful. So that's one I wanted to show you. The other one I want to show you that I'm very impressed with, and this is all in the context of mostly mirrorless cameras. This is the 502. They make a bigger version of this and make smaller versions, but this is a wonderful, wonderful unit, this one here. So this here, what we've got, just make sure it's all locked on and secured. Got to fit it right first. There we go. Now I can free it up. And this is a fluid head for video specifically. Now, can you use it for photos? Yes, of course you can. Everything is usable for everything else. Just let me make this safe and sturdy. So everything is usable. I just de-lock it because I got it on lock. And this is a lovely fluid head for doing video. Absolutely amazingly smooth. A little bit better than this one because it is specifically video, but don't underestimate this one. This is still awesome. But this one here, the motion in it and the ability to adjust everything is fantastic. And when you want to lock it, you can lock it and it's completely secured. So they both come with the handles that are detachable if you want to get them on or get them off. But as you can see here, I'm loving these units, and I just wanted to illustrate in use that if you're doing video, get a proper video head. And that can also be this one here, which is a dual purpose photo video head. But these two are probably the best ones they make. I think value for money, and I highly recommend both of these units for photos and video. So that's pretty much it for the day. I just wanted to, in conclusion, express my appreciation and value of this item here that I put together in the last video. Now this item here is really the flash bender, which I've spoken a lot about in the past, and I've used a little bit of Velcro there just to fasten it together, keep it compressed. But when you pop it out, you've got the combination of the D&O lighting softbox with the softbox of the flash bender, and I tell you what, as a combination on that photo shoot, it was magnificent. The small form factor, the low wind resistance issue, so I was outside and I had no issues with this blowing over on a tripod. And just to illustrate, this was the tripod I was using. So I have it here, and I would have that in any configuration I wanted at the time, whether it be higher or lower. And on this, it's just a light tripod, it was unbeatable to maneuver around, because it's actually quite, as you can see, the form factor is quite modest and small. If there's any wind, it doesn't really make a big fuss of it, because it's quite stable and it's not a lot of wind consumption area. But the softness of the light was fantastic. The only thing I recommend is you get it as close to the subject is fair and reasonable for the point of giving the best softest light. But as far as just lighting in general on the fly, being able to maneuver this with you, just collapse up the tripod like that and you can walk around with it, and there's no problem at all to walk around, because it's not a monster big item and it weighs little, if anything. Oh, I've got this on one hand, I'm struggling not at all to move this around. So you just take it with you as you go. You move to your new spot, you put it down, you've got it on a radio trigger, take your photos and move again. And it was great for portability and functionality and gave a beautiful soft light. So I'm giving this one here, again, a 10 out of 10 thumbs up. I just want to say, yes, I have actually used it on a photo shoot and it was very brilliant. I was very impressed with it. So if you want to copy something similar to that, 100% go. High recommend on a smaller softbox for portability, whatever configuration you choose. So again, thank you for your time today. I hope some tips have been useful. I've had fun, and look forward to seeing you next time.